Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode of Life with Perry Martins. It's nice to connect with you again. I've not done a podcast in a little bit of a time, maybe about 3 weeks now. So apologies for that. Just have a lot going on with work and a business basically, and sometimes one is not in the headspace to come and talk. But yesterday I had an interaction with a driver and just gave me some inspiration to just come in here and share. So what I'm going to be talking about today is education makes the difference. Education makes the difference. And really, education makes a difference. And the reason why I am inspired to do this is, I come from Africa, right? I come from Africa, Nigeria specifically. And sometimes we think that some things are peculiar to us from Nigeria and from Africa. But when you now interact with other people from different parts of the world, you begin to see similarities with your lives. So I boarded the taxi and I was talking with this taxi driver. And, we started talking and he was telling me about his family and how he missed out on education because of the pressure of family. He was a first year student, had 3 more years to go, but there was so many pressures. His father wasn't making enough money, he had 6 siblings, and he decided to drop out of school to come and work in Dubai, of course, come and drive taxi, right? And he was telling me that now he's stuck in that trap. He's caught in the entire trap, because the thing about starting work is that you are caught in a trap of revenue, in a trap of income, so that you're not thinking outside the box anymore to want to improve yourself or top up on your education, right? So he was telling me how he's been caught in that, revenue trap or income trap. So he's not able to now go back to finish. Now he's married, he has kids. His brother is married too, he has kids. So now he's working here in Dubai, sending money back to his hometown, his home country, which is one of the Asian nations, specifically Pakistan. And so he was sharing that with me, how now he wished that he finished his studies, and because of what he's going through, he's working and he's earning money, but of course it's not enough. If you know anything about taxi drivers, especially in the UAE, it's tricky, because you are driving the company owns the taxi, you're driving it, they pay you a certain amount a month. If you incur any fines, it is paid from your money. It's not like a hire purchase where at some point you're going to be able to now own the car like they do back home. It's a different, complete taxi company. So as he was sharing this with me, he was also sharing with me how his sister's son, who is now in the university, he is encouraging him to finish his education, because the guy was already saying, he wants to come to Dubai. He was like, no, you can't come. Finish your education first. Finish your university education first. Then when you are done, then if you now want to come here, you can come, but don't come like me, right? And it occurs to me that all over the world, especially in third world nations, education makes the difference. And the truth is, there has been a lot of clamor in recent times about boycotting education, boycotting going to school, the entire tech rave and, VC money. So VC is venture capital, because venture capitalists are the ones who fund, tech companies, right? So there's just been a lot of buzz around about how education is not really important, and all of that. And yeah, for someone like me that come from Nigeria, specifically, from the Southeast, I know, the entire money thing. I come from the part of Nigeria where a lot of my brothers are in business. A lot of them are in business. Education is the second thing. The first thing is to go out, be the apprentice of some rich guy, learn a trade, and then, they sort you out at the end of your stay. You go out and, make money. So I'm from the Igbo speaking part, so the big thing, the thing with us is you have a son, you give your son to, some master or some trader who he will learn the trade from, and at the end of the trade, they will settle him, or we call it settlement. So they will settle him, and then he will continue. That is the culture or the tradition where I come from. And the truth is, it favors some people, but does not favor a lot of people. For every one trader that will really become successful and make a lot of money, there are probably 10 or 20 more who will not really make it, who will be average or fail entirely. Because the thing about business is it's a gamble. It can either succeed or it will fail. It can either succeed or it will fail. So education makes the difference, right? And there are different forms of education, right? There is the formal and informal education. But I think that formal education is very important because it makes a difference. The story of this, my Pakistani friend now, as he was sharing his story, it occurred to me that we are all the same, and I'm thinking of myself, where would I have been if it were not for education, right? Where would I have been if I wasn't educated? And the reason is this. The reason why education is very important is this, especially education even up to the university level. Having employable skill is a different discussion entirely, because the reason why some people have been speaking up against education is not that education is not important. Is that at the end of the stay, at the end of the education season, most times you do not acquire employable skills. You do not acquire the very life values and skills because of the curriculum. But now a lot of schools are changing that and beginning to make the curriculum and the skills or the knowledge you acquire from schools more applicable to life, right? So these days you see schools having core courses in entrepreneurship, literally teaching you how to run a startup and run it well so that you don't fail. Because the truth is, for every 20 startups that start, 15 will literally fail, right? And there's the statistics out there to back it up. A lot will fail. I've been in business, doing business for a while, right? And the truth is, I had done one business. We succeeded at some point, but at some point, we couldn't go ahead anymore. So, we literally closed shop, right? But after an encounter with the educational programs of entrepreneurship, I began to see some of the mistakes we made. In fact, I look back now and see a lot of mistakes that I made in my first entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to fix that in my second attempt at doing business, right? So that at the end of the day, education, getting knowledge and learning. And what is basically education? It is you learning from the trials and errors and the mistakes of other people. Because what forms the curriculum, what forms the thesis, what forms the definitions, the essays, what forms the postulations are the trials and errors of other people. People do trial and error and then they document it. Then you come and read and study it in school and then you apply it, right? Now, the truth is, the circumstances are not the same, but there are similarities. And you can take what the teacher or the lecturer is saying, bring it into your own space, customize it for your own experience, and, deploy it. So that my encouragement this morning to anybody listening to me is, it is very important that we encourage younger people, especially in our generation now, to know that education is important and that they should subject themselves to it, right? And the good thing now is that education is increasingly being democratized, meaning that you can access education from literally anywhere in the world, and there are lots of free materials out there, and in fact, I'm really thinking about how we can, make education more available to people using the lots of the free materials that are out there. Of course, at the end of the day, you might need to acquire some certification, some paper qualifications, some degree that you can show to say, I know how to do this. Because unfortunately, a lot of people will say, I know how to do it. So employers use the paper qualification or degrees as their first point of contact with what you can do before they now ask you to try it out. Let's see. But I feel and I think that the ultimate test for employment should be practical, not theoretical, not paper, right? The ultimate test or the way employment should happen shouldn't be, send me your CV. No, sorry, send me your CV is powerful. Really, in fact, I would recruit based on your CV much more than based on which school you attended. You understand? Unfortunately, the way it happens is people look at the school you attended, they're not looking at the hardcore skills you have, right? So, two things I've seen is that people recruit you based on the school you attended and then based on who you know. But it's unfortunate. You're supposed to be recruited based on what you know. If you know how to do the job. And how do they do that? You submit your CV, they look at it, you have the prerequisite skill, amazing, great. Okay, come and do it, let us see. If you do it, and you do it well, then we employ you, and that should be the basis. But unfortunately, that is not what works around the world. So, the encouragement is that we should get education, but get valuable education, needed education, applicable education, education that can be applied to your life. So that if you are studying, if you're in school and then you're studying something, it's important that at the end of your study, make sure that you have life applicable skills that you can apply to life, that you can apply to work. Most importantly is to have work experiences, internships, secondments, whatever you can do to get hands-on experience, right? It's very important to do that. And then education helps you to learn the business communication skill. Like I was sharing in one of the podcasts I did earlier, there are certain languages that business is done in, right? One is English all over the world. There is French in the French-speaking nations. There is Arabic in the Arabic-speaking nation. There is, the Chinese language. I'm trying to remember what it's called now. So you have to know one or two of these languages to be able to communicate effectively in the workplace, because the workplace has gone beyond your nation or your country or your locality. The workplace has expanded to global space. These days we have a lot of remote working, right? People are in one part of the world working for another company in another part of the world, and they don't necessarily need to bring you to that part of the world if you don't want to come. We have a lot of that all over, in Nigeria, in Africa, in China, in India. We have a lot of young people who are working for companies on the other side of the world, and they just connect online, have meetings online, they are giving deadlines online, they are giving tasks online, they perform it online, they submit, and they are paid. And you don't necessarily need to see them, except it's really important to meet, and then they fly you in, or someone flies in to have a meeting with you. So my submission this morning, or rather today, as concerning really irrespective of the time you're listening to me, is to know that education makes the difference. Education builds the middle class. Education is the only way that the son of a nobody can end up working for some of the biggest companies in the world, right, and make enough money to be able to set up his or her family for the future. I mean, I was the other day, I was walking down the road and I was thinking about myself. I'm thinking, where would I have been if I hadn't insisted I was going to go to school? Because I'm looking at most of the people I knew back where I'm coming from, and how all of them, most of them, have nothing to show for themselves in life, because they couldn't, push beyond, their existence 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Let me not say 30 years ago as if I'm too old. So 20 years ago, when we were teenagers, right? When we were teenagers and we were in school, some of my colleagues back in secondary school, I see some of them on social media, and I ask myself, what would I have become if I hadn't, insisted and pushed beyond the limitations that I had at the time? Because I still remember clearly that when I got admission, my father told me that, look, I don't have the money to send you to school. I don't know how you are going to do it. And I still remember my mom saying, wow, it's not in this house that somebody will get admission and we can't send the person to school. Whatever we have to do to send a person to school, we must do it. If it means selling clothes, we'll do it. And that word always reminds me of the sacrifice that she made and I had to make. And of course, my dad had to get along and do his part, right? But that decision made a difference. That decision meant that every other person that came after me had to go to school, because I insisted that I would go. It was painful. It was an excruciating, time in my life, but I had to do it because I believed that it would make a difference in my life. And it made a difference in my life. Just being able to communicate in English to people is vital. Sometimes we downplay the value of being able to communicate until you see how important it is to communicate in a global language. You see how it's important. It's a value. It's a value to be able to communicate in a global language. I mean, I understand. I also understand that it might not be a big deal in some places, but in some places it's a very big deal. It's like here in the UAE, it's a big deal. There are two languages, English and Arabic, right? For you as a foreigner, you must learn how to know how to speak one to be able to fit in. And in most parts of the world, English is a lingua franca. It's a language. in most parts of the world you're going to go to, in India, in China, most parts of the world you're going to go to, English is always going to be a language that is needed, right? And so is, several other languages. So that is my encouragement to you today. Know that education is important. Most importantly, specific customized education for the field you're going into is very important for where you are headed to, where you are going to. It will make the difference. It will make the difference. And if it has helped you try and encourage younger people around you to value education, because it's going to help change their life. Thank you for listening to me this morning, and have an amazing day. Bye.